Horror from Beyond. I'm your horror host Brian, and today we'll be discussing the newest in a long list of Hammer films, The Quiet Ones. The film begins at Oxford University in the 1970s, where we're introduced to radical Professor Copeland, an expert in parapsychology. Copeland intends to disprove the supernatural by proving that hauntings are actually latent telepathic abilities of mentally troubled individuals.
Before the discovery of a pathogenic theory of medicine, people believed that sickness was caused by evil spirits. Show of hands, if you get sick, who here would rather see a priest before a doctor?
Attending his class is soft-spoken cameraman Brian, whom Copeland extends an offer to document the professor's current experiment. Aided by his two assistants, Professor Copeland has been studying a young orphan named Jane, a woman who seems to possess a strange bevy of powers. Unfortunately for the group, the experiment is interrupted by Oxford officials, who cut the funding for the project, forcing the researchers to relocate to an old house in the countryside. Once settled in, Jane's behavior begins to become more and more erratic, as well as dangerous, prompting the younger members of the group to become suspicious that there might be more at work than they'd originally believed. Meanwhile, Copeland believes his colleagues are letting superstition get the best of them.
That is what she is manifesting. That is what you call her possession.
Is the professor correct, and Jane is merely a troubled telekinetic? Or is she in fact a vessel for an otherworldly, malevolent force? As I mentioned before, the film was the newest in a rebirth of Hammer films. If you're not familiar with Hammer, they were the name in Gothic horror throughout the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Hammer was forced to close their doors in the mid-80s, but over the last decade, they've slowly started churning out terror once again. Some of these have been solid little flicks, like the Woman in Black remake and the vastly underrated 2011 film Wakewood. Unfortunately, I cannot say the same for The Quiet Ones. Let's talk about the good first. What little there is to mention. Veteran actor Jared Harris plays the aforementioned Professor Copeland and does the absolute best he can with what little he is given. The rest of the performances are not necessarily bad, but they're nothing to write home about. The only other positive offerings I can give are the wardrobe and set dressing convincingly create the illusion that the film takes place in the 70s. Now for the bad. Right from the first frame, I knew I wouldn't like this movie. Can we please retire this worn-out cliche of based on a true story? Spoiler alert, it's not. Another unforgivable trope is the constant barrage of over-the-top sound effects to create fake tension. It almost becomes laughable. Near the end, as the formula becomes so predictive, I instinctively knew when to lower the sound before I blew a speaker. Characters whispering, followed by a loud bang upstairs, does not equal suspense. For the gorehounds, this is a bloodless film. I wouldn't be surprised to hear if the MPA butchered this thing, because a few quick cuts hint that more footage might exist, but we don't get to see it. Either way, when you have 5 main characters and 2 of them are killed off screen, you're doing it wrong. Pepper in some bad CGI, predictable storytelling, and a twist ending that will have you groaning, and you've got a 90-minute waste of time. Save yourself the trouble and choose one of the vastly better films from the Hammer library. Well guys, thanks for watching this episode of Horror from Beyond. I've been your horror host Brian, and if you like what you saw here today, why don't you hit that like and subscribe button below.